there's been talk about a framework for the relationship going forward, and that's going to be something that Xi and Trump will talk about in Osaka. How is that going to work?
Well, the Chinese have been asking for a mechanism ever since Trump was elected, and by that they meant something like the strategic and economic dialogue, something that would be ongoing and known to the public that would bracket off and manage these problems. I think that the problems are greater than that now, and one of the things I think Xi is likely to come up against is this administration from the beginning, and with some reason, has felt that these past mechanisms were talk shops that China used to stall while it built up its capability vis-a-vis that of the United States and continued the same practices. So unless Trump sees real political peril for himself, it's hard to imagine him going for a grand framework in the old model.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the most that we can expect is some sort of statement by both presidents that provide a framework in which this trade negotiation can be placed. There's no point saying, okay, we've got this deal on trade and investment in a relationship that we think is just going to be adversarial. Right. What's the point? When we think about these two individuals, you couldn't imagine people who are, in one sense, more different from one another. Their backgrounds are enormously different. She will come enormously prepared with all the details. Trump is a big picture guy. He's a real estate deal maker. What's your read on the relationship of those two, and how's that going to play out at this meeting?
Well, of course, they talk a lot, Trump especially, about friendship and respect he has for Xi Jinping. I regard this as mutually convenient political theater. Xi Jinping only recently reciprocated that. But as you say, Xi Jinping is going to be very prepared. He's going to be at the head of a phalanx of Chinese officials, all of whom have come to a consensus. Whereas Trump tends to like to be spontaneous under these circumstances. But Xi, as a matter of political culture, really cannot reciprocate spontaneity. He is going to go back to the huddle. So it's hard to see where this goes as a matter of style, and that they have very different diplomatic cultures. And there's a difference of vocabulary that I think could become important at the G20 as well. China is going to insist as part of the framework on what it calls respect, sincerity, and equality. And it's not clear what China means by those words, but they're extremely important to China. The American side, if Trump is in the mood, will reciprocate that language very readily because it doesn't cost him anything. It doesn't mean anything to him, but it means everything to the Chinese. Right. And so you're going to have a cultural and a difference of styles of diplomacy, and you may have a problem with vocabulary as well. It will be interesting to watch.
But when you look at the trade agreement itself, we know that there was 150 pages plus or minus of text that was no longer bracketed. That means that the two sides had reached an understanding. I think it's not going to take an enormous leap of faith or enormous gymnastics to get that back on the table, dress it up so that the language sounds more acceptable to the Chinese side, but still addresses some of the fundamental issues in the commercial relationship. But you have to have the will to begin with to want to do that deal.
Well, I think that one of the things that the American side could do to get to the position that you just described is to change this idea of an enforcement mechanism which essentially asks China to become a parolee to the U.S. government. China's simply not going to agree that the United States gets to determine whether China has been good or bad, and then we'll have the right to unilaterally impose sanctions, something that we've been apparently insisting on. That strikes me as something that could be adjusted or taken off the table as a concession to China that enables a more reciprocal conversation, which might let Xi put some of whatever had been agreed to structurally back into the mix. But I think that we have to do something to show what the Chinese call sincerity.
Absolutely, and I think that it's not escaped both sides that whatever agreement they reach could be abrogated by either side at any given moment. There's another issue which we talked about earlier, and that is whether the deal that they do, if they end up doing one, is WTO compliant, and who takes the case against which party if it isn't. That's going to be interesting. So there's a lot of drama to take place up in the upcoming months over the summer. I was hoping to get some time off and not have to write bulletins to my constituents and our clients about this, but maybe they'll get the whole thing wrapped up so we can all take a nice vacation this summer. What are your plans?
I think that you should be planning on a Christmas vacation and not a summer vacation.